We have a panel discussion. Can I please call upon the stage Ms. Shazia Mastoor, Head of Human Resource EA Consulting, to moderate the session, please. And our panel members, Mr. Imran Ahmed Khan, CEO Bayer, Mr. Nadeem Elahi, CEO TRG, Dr. Irfan Haider, Dean, College of Business Management, Mr. Rashid Rafiq Butt, CEO Novo Nordisk. I request Ms. Shazia Mastoor to please moderate the session.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear panelists. The topic that we'd be discussing today is spotting, engaging, and retaining talent for growth. It's a very interesting topic, not only for the line managers, but also for the HR managers. Finding the right candidate and retaining the same isn't an easy task. If the company is doing great, the business is growing, but the people are leaving. How do we retain them? How do we retain the new talent? The best people who are the wizards behind the phenomenal growth that we have achieved. How do we retain them? To discuss this topic, we have our panelists here, Mr. Nadeem Elahi, Mr. Imran, Mr. Rashid Rafiq, and Dr. Syed Irfan. Assalamu alaikum. The first question that would be coming in my mind is hiring. Hiring, spotting, or recruiting the candidate. Unfortunately, we lack sophisticated measures of recruiting talent and talent hunting in Pakistan. If you put an advertisement in the newspaper, the relevant resource, they don't read it. Mostly you get is junk, and if you go through a headhunter, whatever is in their database, they give it to you. How do we spot the right talent? Ji, Mr. Nadeem.
Hello. So, very interesting dilemma. I think as a recruiter, we recruit in very large numbers. So just to give you an idea, we employ over 6,000 people across IT and IT services. And last year, I was just checking with my team, we hired over 4,000 people. So I was just asked, going through the numbers, I haven't looked at our recruiting channels for the last few years, but I was very surprised. I mean, I'll give you a very good sort of example. It will highlight what Asif was talking about, the whole disruption that is happening. So about 70% of the 4,000 people that we recruited in the last 12 months actually came from online channels. So it was social media was in the top, LinkedIn, other social media profiles, online job portals. So, and if I looked at this probably 3 years ago, it would be the reverse. About 70% of my talent would have come from newspaper ads, from other recruitment activities or personal activities or billboards or all of that. So this is a sea change, right? If you look at the transformation and the shift, this is phenomenal, right? In Pakistan, approximate numbers are that 1 million people join the workforce or more on an annual basis. So imagine the huge transformation that is happening, this whole shift from offline to online. I mean, basically, what Asif was talking about, newspapers are dumb mediums, right? You throw them out, and then as you said, you get people who may not be relevant to me, apply, and then you sift through hundreds and thousands of resumes to select your candidates. Social media and online channels, you can do very targeted, and specific marketing. You can look at specific pools of people. You can even go down to the nth detail. You want to hire people in a specific area. You want to hire people with specific interests. In fact, it's too detailed, right? That's what the whole Facebook fiasco is about, because I can literally, as a recruiter, I can pick my target pool. I can look at people in a certain age profile, living in a certain area, having certain interests. So I think it's really, so I think intelligent recruiting is what the name of the game is.
And I believe that's free of cost too.
No, but the cost is phenomenally cheaper.
Yeah, definitely.
The cost, that's a good point. The cost per hire, my cost per hire has probably come down by 90% through these channels, and my yield has gone up tremendously.
Wow.
So I think there is a tremendous shift in terms of.
Mr. Imran, how do you guys hire in your company? I mean, what's the recruiting model?
First of all, I think you're right. Newspaper era has gone.
Exactly.
Now we have different modes, as Mr. Nadeem mentioned earlier. Why we have to go to outside for external hiring? Of course, one of the primary reason is we don't have internal bench strength. And companies and organizations ideally should work on a succession planning. But anyways, we have to go outside for external hiring. And if I talk about the most hirings, the major percentage goes to middle management and entry level. So if I talk about entry level, I think here comes responsibility of the organizations and from the external world also, like institutions. What I think is important, licensing of the organization with the top institutes of relevant disciplines. Alumni associations are working, of the top institutes are working very well. Management training programs of different organizations from the entry level are playing a vital role in most of the organizations where do they have a structured program of management training. Then they can move up to middle management level. Internships, another area. I think the institutions, the top institutions, should have a liaison with the companies, and I believe they do have career placement centers in which career counseling is given to the students, and it helps in the entry level positions particularly. If I talk about the middle management, if I have a good entry level, it can grow into the middle management. Secondly, if I have to go for a middle management, it also helps if I have, in my organization, if I talk about a strong talent acquisition or recruitment function.
Are you also involved in recruiting and interviewing the candidates?
Of course, no, it depends.
On what level?
My HR is responsible, my recruitment function comes under HR. They work on it. First of all, talent profiling. What actually do we need?
Okay.
So I think it needs to be, we should have a clarity what actually we need. You talk about that headhunters usually send us the profile. I think the organizations do have the responsibility to send them profiles which they need.
Fair enough.
The superficial discussions always end up in disappointments.
Okay.
And it's not the case that headhunters are not doing a good job in different cases. I have observed, at least in my organization, we have hired good people through headhunters. Okay. But the differentiating factor which I have observed is the recruitment function. Even in our annual scorecards, like objectives, it's not only in Pakistan, but in the regional level, the talent recruitment function is required to have a tracking of the potential candidates within the market.
Okay.
And recently we hired in Singapore one of the candidates who was in the radar, and later on we offer and we matched the profile, and it helped.
Okay, Dr. Irfan, how do you hire in? I mean, आप अपने CBM के अंदर किस तरह induct करते हैं? माशाल्लाह, you have lots of students, तो आपको ज़्यादा मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ती होगी?
जी, मेहनत तो हमें बहुत करनी पड़ती है, ऐसी बात नहीं है. You see, the key point in this discussion is the word talent. Are we hiring an employee or are we hiring a talent? Talent management is a loaded phrase and is different from HR management. And similarly, retention of that talent and engagement of that talent are different from hiring an HR person or hiring an employee and engaging and retaining an employee. The qualitative difference in talent spotting is the person who is looking for that talent. I personally think that just by looking at the data, you cannot spot the talent. And typically, I personally also think that as a senior part of the senior management, I have a very clear idea of all the various strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats and the strategic management objectives. So when I'm trying to spot a talent within the organization or outside, I am always evaluating in the context of that map which I hold, the relevancy of a particular competency in a person for that kind of role. And I believe that is what distinguishes talent management from a function performed in an HR department where it is simply a list of candidates on some predefined criteria trying to shortlist. That may be okay at the entry level, but if we have to if we are looking for strategic initiatives, then something extra needs to be identified which qualifies that employee from just an employee or an employee ID to a talent that we are looking for.
Okay. Once the team is put together, the right balance of compensation, the right balance of compensation is the key. Going for above market rate would lead to problems in the internal equity, and if you offer them the market prevalent rate, they won't be willing to switch the jobs. In this case, what shall be done? Mr. Rashid Rafiq, what would you like to say on this?
Thank you very much. First, because I'm the last one to answer this same question probably, and my senior has given the very valid and very right approach that everybody is using. Along with all these media, the social media or the many other media using for attracting the talent, I personally feel that the most important thing is your own employees, how much happy they are. They are the right ambassador to establish your repute into the industry.
Well said.
I'm working in the pharmaceutical industry. We are not a big organization. It's just less than 300 employees. If I compare with the TRG, it's a huge organization. But whatever I have the experience now, till now, to hiring the best person for my organization, that has been attracted by my existing employee, number one. So if they are happy, then probably you don't need to go for the advertisement or to attract from any other using the media. Because if I feel myself you want to switch over from my existing job to some other organization, what I will do, I will find the right person inside the organization to find to check the temperature of the organization. Either is the best fit for me or not. If the employee is not happy, then probably I will not be getting attracted by that. Second important thing, which is less important than that, whenever we go for the application through this digital revolution, we are also using in Novo Nordisk. This app is very successfully running around. We may not be finding the right talent for our organization, but at least we are building our image among the industry, because this app is supporting us. If somebody has applied to any of the vacancy that we have, then at least we will not be able to reach out to maybe the 300 people for just one position, but at least this app will help us to respond them back in a more professionally way, that either they are not qualified for this job or whatever the other reason that we are not contacting them. And the third one, of course, when we go deep down into the interviews of the candidate, then we give them the very professional behavior. Either they will be selected or not, but they should take an image of Novo Nordisk. They can go back that they will really talk good about this organization. that they have a good environment, they have a huge professionalism inside the organization. So I feel that these are the three things, other than all these things that my colleagues have shared with you guys, are really, I think, helping to spot the talent for the organizations.
Sorry about that. You just said you have to keep our employees happy, right? What do you think, how can we keep our employees motivated? You think आपको different level पे different motivation देनी होती है, or everybody is going to be happy with the same thing?
Yes, probably this is more related to the next topic of this engaging, which we can address right now even. Luckily, or maybe because of our culture, Novo Nordisk has won this the Best Place to Work award this year. Among the all industry, we were been a second, and among pharmaceutical, we were the number one. How we are maintaining this culture? Because every single person having a different profile. And to handle and to manage and to keep them engaged or to motivated, these employees, you need a skill and a very dedicated supervisors. So that is our belief on that. And that's how we are working in our organization.
Okay, Imran Sahab, आप अपने employees को किस तरह motivated रखते हैं?
Last week I was with my field force. So I was giving performance award. My representative from the field stood up and he said, "Sir, आप जो है वो मैं HR में मास्टर्स कर रहा हूँ. एक्सट्रिंसिक अवार्ड होते हैं और इंट्रिंसिक अवार्ड होते हैं. तो आप एक्सट्रिंसिक दे देते हैं, हमें इंट्रिंसिक के ऊपर भी फॉलो अप करना चाहिए." आई थिंक मोटिवेशन जो एम्प्लॉयज़ का है, वी कैन मोटिवेट, इट वेरीज फ्रॉम पर्सन टू पर्सन, it varies from position to position. Overall, if we talk about, I think if employee is engaged and he or she is feeling that he is contributing towards the organization and he is moving, his career is moving, and he is appreciated when he or she is appreciated, and he is guided when a coaching is required. Financial benefits, of course, are very important, but along with those financial benefits, I believe these are, if the career is moving of a particular employee, that is the best motivating part which we can have in our organizations and which helps us.
I don't know whether you guys face this problem or not, but I, as an HR manager, face this thing a lot that हम किसी को recruit कर रहे होते हैं, that person is demanding X amount of money, but my grading structure doesn't allow, I mean, minimum or max range hoti hai hamari. Okay? But
I got your point, yeah. I think
if you bring somebody from outside and pay him more, जो आपकी internal equity है वो नाराज हो जाती है कि आपने क्यों ज़्यादा पे किया है. We are working with the company for the last 5 years, blah blah blah. How do you deal with that?
First of all, we have two options, of course, we know. Build or buy. Ideally, we should build our internal, we should have a strong internal development plans.
I agree.
But somehow it is not possible all the time that the build is only the option. Buy is also another option. And if we have to buy, and if there is a significant gap between what actually we require and what is available internally, we have to go outside. And along with that, I think organization should also have a periodic reviews of their internal compensation packages. This is also very important. And organizations are doing, like data are available and we are having a benchmarks every year. And even in that case, if we have to go outside and the person we want to hire is asking for more, there is no harm if my internal equity is disturbed. Why? Because if I am successful in hiring a good person, first, he or she will be far more productive and the value contribution towards the organization will be high. Overall, organization will be beneficial. Secondly, a healthy competition within the team will generate. And this healthy competition will always generate productive results. So I have recent examples, at least in the last 6 months, I had to hire from outside and my internal equity was disturbed. And I'm perfectly fine with it as far as I'm able to find the best fit for my organization.
But didn't you negotiate with that person?
Of course, negotiate, but if I see that this person has that caliber and I have to offer and that is justified, then I'll have to.
Definitely, definitely.
So I will not compromise that giving 100,000 less and having a person, weaker person, who cannot manage later on, and that can be a mess in my organization. So it is not, I think, advisable, and at least we are not doing it.
Fair enough. Normally, organizations run on status quo, not on growth. So the growth-oriented candidates feel suffocated in such situations. Also, high-growth individual needs special kind of attentions. Hence, the CEO needs to figure out an appropriate style of leadership to fulfill the requirement. What's your take on it, Nadeem Saab?
I think first of all, you have to have the processes internally to identify talent, especially top talent, and you have to have the processes to allow them to grow within the organization. So internal development, talent development programs and identification of good talent is very important. And then you have to sort of make sure that you are putting them on fast track programs to grow and develop quickly. And this is something that we do all the time, and in fact that's a program that we look at at the very top level of management, where we identify our top talent across various groups, and then we work with them over the years as they and groom them to become leaders. And that program needs visibility at the top, but it's important to have those sorts of systems in place so you can identify talent and then grow it.
Okay. Dr. Saab, what do you have to say on this?
You see, I'll come back again to the word talent management. I think we are trying to look at this issue more from an HR perspective. And the traditional HR perspective has already in its last throes. The HR function trying to spot talent for marketing, I don't know how can they do it, or trying to spot talent for another department, how can they do it? So that's the reason. And similarly, engaging HR department trying to engage an employee in marketing or in manufacturing without understanding the dynamics and the requirements of those particular departments. Hence the term for the talent management. Talent management refers to the organization-wide processes.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but whenever the HR is doing interviews or engaging anybody from the market, the line manager is always kept in loop, because of course HR doesn't know the technical part.
Anyhow, I'm speaking from a theoretical perspective. You look at the definitions. So yes, theoretically, it's they need to. If they have to do it, then they should do it, and that's how the concept of business partner comes in, where the HR is actually moved into the business units. So it is the business unit who is then making these decisions, and that should be kept in mind. That's one point. The other point is that in this world of change that we have been listening about since morning, things are always changing. And so the concept of internal equity, for instance, or the past being a determinant of the future, that's what analytics is. So in its most abstract sense, analytics refers to the prediction based upon past data. But when we are confronted with new opportunities and new threats and new things, we need a more flexible organization. An organization like, for instance, the classic case of 3M, which did it 50 years ago, was to involve the employees in the creation of the new ideas, maybe giving them some kind of a partnership in the design of the new product, and then also some kind of a stake in the development if that product idea is successful, in giving them stake in the business unit resulting from that lines of products that are coming in. And that's a totally different perspective of looking at the talent management. Because when we are worried about retention, for instance, we are worried because the employee feels that the ideas that he or she has in his or her mind may get a better reception elsewhere. So the organization itself needs to be flexible enough to accommodate all the potential and the talent and its growth within the organization. So the organization has to be flexible and expand according to particular employees.
Okay, thank you. Rashid Saab, definitely everybody is looking for good pay packages and bonuses. Besides that, how would you retain your employee?
Yes, retention is, of course, I totally agree with the panel. They have given their expertise. But at the same time, I think this is a progression, promotions, development, career, everything is impacting a lot to retain your talent. But now recently, in this, the generation Y, which is a new challenge for us, which is not my age probably, the new generation maybe is above than all these parameters which are more of theoretical now. The practically is coming to now is, if you will not give them the challenge, if you will not engage them on a more than a one platform, on a one project, they will get bored on that. Recently, I had in one very critical position, and she joined us on a same salary. And why she joined us? Because she got bored on his previous organization, because there was no more challenges she was facing, and she said this is the fastest growing organization, and she looks into more challenging, and she joined on the same package on the same salary. So just like the new generation is coming, I have a 10 years old son, and to keep him quiet, I have to engage him, and engage him at least 2 projects at one time. And one time is not enough for him because he's 10 years old. I'm now too old now, probably I'm managing only one at one time. So this generation, if you want to retain them, then you need to keep them highly engaged with the challenges. Otherwise, they will get bored. Probably they are not more prone to earn the money. They are more prone to earn the designation, but they want to do something very new, innovative or challenging to show the world.
You'd like to add something to it?
And I want to add to Dr. Saab's point. Without HR, I think in practical world, which we are having, line managers, respective function are there, but with the help of HR. Of course, it's not written on the faces that this is talent or this is not a talent. We have to go through the process, and HR is the right department, which, along with the recruitment function, they do their exercise, and then respective department analyze on the leadership competencies and on the business sides, both. And it depends on the different functions. So that is very much relevant. Secondly, you talk about the status quo. I think in today's world, it's a very dynamic marketplace, and status quo approach cannot be, we cannot be successful with a status quo approach in this world. Yes, we do have high flyers in our organization. How can we manage them? This is very important. And you ask about the leadership style for these individuals. The first thing comes to my mind is a sort of, if I take it from theoretical perspective, affiliation. We need to understand their point of view, their concerns, and listen properly. And secondly, I think it's coaching, because usually what happens with these high flyers, they want to have big jumps in a short run. They need to be coached, and they need to understand the big picture, and we as a leaders should explain what is there for them in the organization. How can it, and how it can happen? First, Rashid talked about stretch assignments, additional roles, and rotations. These are helpful in managing such employees.
I agree.
How it can happen? Unless you have a robust HR processes in your organization. And what are those processes? These are the performance management reviews, which all the organization or mostly organizations have at least twice in a year. If managers are having a candid conversation with the employee and giving feedback on the mid-year and at the year end, and secondly, a structured development plan for all in journal, but particularly for these high flyers is in place. And thirdly, leaders, what they are talking about, they should show with the behaviors. So when there is an opportunity and it's there in the development plan of respective employee, he or she should be exposed to that part. I think these are the few things which we can have, which organizations are doing, and those organizations who are doing successfully, they are able to manage those high flyers and retain them in the organizations and prepare them for the next more responsible roles.
Thank you so much, Imran Sahab. By the way, we are short of time, so I'd like to thank my panelists, Mr. Rashid Sahab, Dr. Irfan, Mr. Nadeem Elahi, and Mr. Imran, and my audience as well. Thank you so much. Over to you.
It's all good. Thank you very much.